Right, I'm Max. This is the source of my autistic joy. I'm interested in traditional music in various countries, especially Gaelic. And this is one of the tradition bearers, one of the big tradition bearers, Mary MacDonald or Macpherson. She's known as Mari Bhórn an Óran, or Big Mary of the Songs. She's the only female Gaelic poet to have a commemorative flagstone in Edinburgh's Maccas Court. That's Scotland's national literary monument. There are only 3 other Gaelic poets commemorated there, and I'm really proud to have contributed to that flagstone. The flagstone has a quotation from one of her most famous poems, Éile na Cheoil. It's possible that the name for Skye, Misty Isle, originates with her. Cainnichah gur slug siv as cumah suas u call. Remember that you are a people and stand up for your rights. Mari Bhór, we'd love to think that it means Great Mary, but it's actually a reference to her size. She was unusually tall and broad to match, is a very unlikely political campaigner and an unlikely poet. She was born in 1821 in Skye and left at the age of 23 for Inverness. She married and had 5 children, and when her husband died in 1871, leaving her with 5 children as a single parent, she took the only employment available for an unqualified, illiterate woman. Illiterate's important. She became a domestic servant. And while in that employment, she experienced the disaster, or not, that completely changed her life. She was accused, almost certainly wrongly, of stealing clothes belonging to the recently dead wife of her employer. Mari was convicted and spent 42 days in jail, despite being supported by, among others, Charles Fraser Mackintosh, who was an Inverness solicitor and politician, and who remained her friend and colleague for the rest of her life. So was it a disaster? Yes and no. Wrongful conviction in an English-speaking court, and then confinement in a cell with nobody but rough English-speaking officers around her, gave rise to her first poem or song. Hami ski jeluch na berla. I am sick of English speakers. You can hear the anger in her song. But as she later said in her song Oran Bain Lee, prison is a good college, as I discovered for myself. Smahan college than prison, sat a gainish mi hinshin. She never looked back. Once released, she moved to Glasgow, learned to read and write in the hated English, realizing, as so many do, that only learning the language of the oppressor could mitigate the oppression, and qualified as a midwife at 50 plus. She's a good role model for those of us who don't find our métier until late in life. When I say Mari found her métier, I don't mean midwifery. I mean poetry. I mean song. I mean, in her own way, campaigning politics. Interestingly, nobody I've spoken to knows where Mari got her tunes from. I like the thought of the words and music appearing for her simultaneously, and the contemporary poet recently died, Angus MacNicoll, certainly seemed to think that was true. Mari never learned to write in Gaelic, though she could read it, but she had a wonderful memory, and that's where she stored the tunes and the words together. In the remaining quarter century of her life, she became famous for her songs and for championing the crofters in the increasingly heated debate over land rights in Skye. Song was an essential mode of spreading information to local Gaelic-speaking communities in Skye, as most of them, like Mari herself, were not literate in Gaelic. Her poetry, quite apart from its beauty and liveliness, provides a significant body of evidence about the crofters' uprisings. Her songs speak about her own life, whether it's memories of her youth in Skye, a description of her journey in a small boat with several politicians. You can just imagine it, can't you? One of them complained that if Mari got into the boat, it would sink. There's also a celebration of her favourite shinty team, Glasgow, in case you were wondering. But above all, they speak of Skye, of the clearances, which were not history at that time, but memory, the Crofters' War and the Highland Land League. Mari was enormously enthusiastic and enormously generous, but one gets the impression that she wasn't the easiest of people to get on with. She liked her dram and her snuff. She had very little sense of the appropriate and a blazing sense of justice. Her biographer says of her, life does not hang together well for many, many people, and Mari was one of them. There are, nevertheless, unities of approach and understanding within the individual persona. In her own unpremeditated way and through her own personality, Mari tried to capture and unify the untidiness of life's experience. Well, I wonder if that sounds familiar to my neurokin as you listen to this talk. I can't say that Mari Vornanoran was autistic, but, well, the autistic click. Just one piece of music. I don't think I have time for two verses. One verse of my all-time favorite, Sorry Leshanach, where she recalls the heartbreaking day when she left Skye for the city. Sorry Leshanach, and dŵr ni maracog, eilenum biawnach de farentavan keo. Y mocha jeres, grien an spyr for os, a fwyd of neil na heiche, seishach yn stor. This is wonderful. It says, confirm your speaking language. It sounds like you might have switched to a different language. Please update it. That's me done.